Welcome to New Zealand Loyal's broadcast, in which, as I promised a week ago today, I will be outlining in broad brushstrokes the policies of our party, the policies to serve the people of New Zealand at the next election. This next election in October 2023 is not only the most important election of all our lives, I believe it's the most important election in the history of this country. Will we retain our nationhood, our sovereignty, our independence, or will we allow ourselves to be gobbled up by globalists and forces that are not yet fully disclosed to us, but which many of us who have done our research are now aware are lurking greedily in the background? This is a message which assumes an intelligence in the audience. I am speaking up to the highest part of you. I am asking you to draw up a cup of tea, sit down and spend the next hour thinking about the direction you want your country to go in. Surely an hour is not too much to ask for the future of you and your family and your nation. Many people now say, oh, we can't have long messages. We must all be short and sharp. But everything here, every word here has been deeply thought about, and I ask you to stay with this message until the end. Our country is being systematically destroyed in a controlled demolition by entities which seek nothing less than the total subjugation of us all. We have been divided, suppressed, restricted, and censored. As a people, Kiwis have been attacked on all fronts by a sold-out government using fear-mongering. Whether it's through yet another virus supposedly ready to wipe out mankind, or the so-called climate crisis, which millions around the world are realizing is yet another con, or the coming manufactured, man-made economic collapse, or any other fabricated, trumped-up narrative. These globalist forces have meticulously planned the rollout of their dark agenda. If you dismiss the truth of this, be warned, it's at your peril. Do not underestimate what is going on and why you have that uneasy feeling in your gut. You're right to listen to that. There is something wrong in our country, gravely wrong. This is warfare. This government is not your friend, and neither will a National Act government care about you or your family. Luxon and Seymour can say all the empty words of assurance they like, but know this, they are simply spouting what they think you want to hear and mouthing off with zero sincerity or integrity. They and some of the other parties standing will just do and say what it takes to get in, and then they will betray your hopes and your dreams and your wishes, just as Jacinda did, as so many of them have, if you look back over these last decades. We've had decades of the cancerous growth of globalism, agreed to without asking the people, agreed to by and with the parasitic few who call themselves elite, but are instead really just a self-serving cabal of crooks. If you vote them in, they will break their electioneering promises without so much as a look back at you. Why? Why would they do that? Because they are set up to follow the globalist agenda. All those hypocrites flying off to parade and preen themselves at Davos are just the willing pawns of their globalist puppet masters. That's why they don't listen to or consult with you, the people, once they get voted in. So take note, New Zealand. This is totally disloyal and unconventional warfare, being waged against the people on many fronts, via psychological, legal, medical, economic, political, academic, and the brutal police enforcement methods. I have sat back and observed now political parties being created to combat the surge of our increasingly totalitarian state and supposedly to push back on the dehumanizing of the many by these parasitic so-called leaders. I've watched as groups and organisations have come together with perhaps one particular focus as a pushback. But what I have not seen is a genuine plan or workable commitment here in New Zealand to win outright this war, to totally win this war that is being waged against humanity and against our God-given freedoms here in New Zealand. I've watched in a sort of fascinated horror as political prostitution has swayed some to appear to trade away their integrity for influence or for easy but compromised funding, or for a meaningless perch at someone else's table. The key focus, their very reason to make a stand, has been lost. And what is that key focus? It's the people. It's you. It's us. It's our families. It's our shared Kiwi heritage. Winning minor battles and skirmishes here and there is no longer enough. Seeing a win as being just enough influence to gain one seat at someone else's table is no longer enough. The threats to our Kiwi way of life are broad and they run deep. And it will take Kiwis of uncompromised integrity, courage, moral fortitude and clarity, and huge hearts to come together to save our country from these marauding, insatiably greedy globalists. And so it's for these very reasons that I've decided to seek the political overthrow of all in the current New Zealand government, both sides of the corrupted parliamentary benches, by standing at the next general election in New Zealand loyal. It's natural at this point that some will ask, why do we need yet another political party to further divide the vote? On the face of it, it's a fair question, and it's one I can and shall address. Until now, there has been no current, real alternative to the existing power structure that simply presumes it will take the majority at this 2023 election. The most that smaller parties are looking at accomplishing is to be a sort of also-ran party. They often talk of just scraping in over the 5% threshold, as if that would be an achievement, and they express the sort of vague hope of having some semblance of influence. Some openly say they don't want to rock the boat, as Kiwis cannot cope with that. We at New Zealand Loyal disagree. Kiwis are inherently far braver than you think, and we at Loyal are certainly not a party of the timid. We believe the mass of silent but watching Kiwis are well awake to the dark agendas of the 120 politicians currently misrepresenting the people of New Zealand. We believe there are millions of Kiwis living here and based around the world who are desperate for something brave and truthful to stand next to and to support in this crucial 2023 election. We are the many who want something that represents loyalty to Kiwis' interests and not to the globalists' interests. Loyalty to you, not to them. We intend to return the power and control back to those who should rightfully wield it. That is, to you, the people. And because we stand for you and you alone, we are the party to replace National and to oust the current corrupt Labour Greens, hopefully forever after their many recent and absolutely unforgivable betrayals of us as a people. Some new parties and groupings have wish lists, but none to me goes far enough to the pinpoint of real political significance. If we are to put an end to the encroaching one world globalist madness and restore our country to a sound path that honours Kiwi lives and Kiwi families and Kiwi incomes and Kiwi freedoms, then we feel that the following courageous and achievable actions need to be taken. Firstly, we shall bring an end to our participation in the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, and the United Nations. Remember, UN policies lie at the very heart of disenfranchising landowners and dishonouring our precious farmers, while also removing our choices and our independence as a Kiwi nation. Perhaps in its founding days, decades ago, the UN may have had integrity, but people around the world are now questioning its actions, its authoritarianism, and furthermore, asking who really runs it. We will also end any UN-forced climate accords that are based on faulty science and mainstream media-driven hysteria. We shall make New Zealand energy independent, utilising the natural resources we have here in abundance. Yes, that also means oil refining capabilities built here. Our national security depends on it. We will place a moratorium on all immigration until such time as we know we have the infrastructure and services to cope with the needs of our current population. You need only look at our bulging road system to see the need to slow down the massive migration that has happened under Labour Greens. We will immediately ban the fluoridation of our water supplies. Fluoride is implicated in the reduction of IQ levels in several seminal recent studies. As a people, we need all the skills of our intellect and our critical thinking and questioning abilities to be able to hold all future governments, including a New Zealand loyal government, to account for actions taken in the name of the people. We will bring an end to the poisoning of our lands, our water, and our air, including ending 1080 poison drops and the spraying of toxic chemicals like cancer-inducing Roundup, glyphosate, on the land or in aerial form. As a nation, we will share and discuss the better options for getting rid of weeds, such as harmless steam, or more effective ways to protect our bird populations that will also offer job opportunities and income to hunters and trappers. We will void any restrictive regulation that unreasonably inhibits farmers' ability to farm, developers' ability to develop, and business ability to trade. What regulations are absolutely required shall be based on best practice and to minimise harm. We will, above all, consult with and listen to and honour our Kiwi farmers, whose work and income have always been the backbone of our country's wealth. As a child, I knew to show respect and gratitude to our farmers, many of whom to this day exemplify world-leading practices. They have shown they will listen to the consumer. Why are we, the people, not still listening in appreciation and respect to their needs and vision? Why should these globalist politicians currently in power be allowed to continue to dismiss and deride the Kiwi farmer's valuable voice? And to any farmer still considering voting National or ACT, please know that you will be subjugated to the dark Agenda 2030 from the World Economic Forum if you vote them in, and if you lack the courage to vote as a loyal Kiwi. And that's equally so with Democracy New Zealand, whose board has now been exposed in the 5 recent defections as national acolytes. Their commitment to go with Luxon is unwavering. Vote Democracy New Zealand, and it is simply a vote for national, which in turn is a vote for globalist domination of your country, of our country. We will completely scrap the current tax system. No more income tax, no more corporate tax, no more GST. Imagine, tradies, no more oppressive road user charges. How would that lighten your financial burden? But how, you ask, how can we possibly do that and still ensure essential services are funded? We shall provide those details in the coming weeks. just as we will be delving more deeply into each area outlined here in this speech today. This today is intentionally that policy overview, but we need you to keep watching the New Zealand Loyal and Free NZ Media websites for the regular updates that will now be recorded to answer your questions and to explain the details of each policy area in the coming weeks. Rome was not built in a day, as the saying goes, and neither is New Zealand Loyal. But huge strides have been taken in just the 10 days since we announced this party, not least among them the huge amount of support that we've had from you and the donations and the sign-ups, the paid sign-ups as members. Every single one of you, deeply appreciated. We will investigate and bring transparency to the role that our central bank, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, plays in our deficit-based, overly leveraged, boom-bust economy. And that will be with a view to possibly curtailing it. We will also consider options for moving away from the current fiat money system to a sound monetary system in which our money is asset-backed and solid, instead of being based on irresponsible and inept governments choosing to print paper money at will and at great risk to our society's stability. Government will no longer be able to resort to secrecy either, to avoid its accountability to the people. We'll end the overclassification of information as confidential. The people must have easy access to what their government is doing. The people should rightfully know much more about their government than the government knows about the people. All this surveillance is facing the wrong direction. Point it at the politicians and make them fully answerable servants to the voters. We will scrap all race-based policies and instead adopt a position based on need and necessity. The system of apartheid being built up in this country will be torn down. The push towards co-governance will end. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. We are one nation. We are one people with a largely common history. I come from proud Scandinavian and Scottish stock. My forebears were burnt off their lands by a pillaging Highland tribe in Scotland. I cannot let that define my life now. I refuse to remain a victim of my ancestral story. What I can do today is start a new story, not one of eternal victimhood and the resentment that goes with that. I can go forward and build a powerful, harmonious, new New Zealand with my fellow loyal Kiwis. I ask all Kiwis to think the same way. We must start from today and build, not continually live in yesterday or our forebears' lives and destroy. Besides all of that, it's now absolutely essential that we unite as a people. This government has actively sown division among so many different groups of Kiwis, town and country, trans and non-trans, Māori and European, jabbed and unjabbed. The list goes on and on. But most of us can now see that only a destructive government would do this to its own people. Yes, it's the communist playbook to sow such division. We need to see it for what it is, manipulation of the population, so that we are fighting amongst ourselves instead of coming together to stand up to the common enemy we have, which has orchestrated this war among us. These divisions serve only the few who continue to benefit while the rest of us bear the cost. Don't be manipulated by their games. You and I are not enemies. By coming together as Kiwis, we can beat them at their manipulative division. We are the solution to our own country's current issues. But we're the solution only if we come together as differing ethnicities, yes, but as one overall Kiwi race. And I think we need to remind ourselves that our European heritage is hugely valuable, and it too should be fully celebrated. This is not to lessen the value of our Maori or our Chinese or Indian or other lineages in this country. In fact, given that our European forebears' bloodlines account for at least 5/6 of our population, and by the way, those bloodlines are within many of our Maori brothers and sisters also, we will once again emphasize and teach our children the beautiful offerings of anything from Shakespeare's English to our Romantic poets to our Renaissance philosophers and thinkers, the heritage that we had from that lineage as well, rather than becoming a country that seems hell-bent on celebrating only the heritage of Māori to the exclusion of the brilliance and the richness of our full European Kiwi heritage. There is room for much more than the one-lane cultural highway onto which this government has pushed and coerced and manipulated us all. And as for the resources of this country, they belong to all the people of this country. They do not belong to the self-selected few who continue to enrich themselves at your expense. And that includes the Māori few at the top who, like their parasitic globalist overlords, are willingly enriching themselves but do not share those gains with the whole iwi. Many Māori know this. It's not trickling down. And they often take from and condemn hard-working Kiwis of proud European lineage also. This sanctioned greed by the few within Māoridom shall cease immediately. All resources shall be respected, used, and shared for the betterment of all Kiwis. And on that note, all Treaty of Waitangi claims will be referred to England and the Crown. The people of this nation will no longer be burdened by what many say is a never-ending gravy train. The justice system, that will be set right. All current courts shall continue to deal with all corporate entities, companies, organisations and others, but cases against people will be heard in superior common law courts and not be caught up in the current fraud taking place where there exist presumptions skillfully tricking you into believing you are bound by their application. You are not a straw man. You are not a legal fiction. You are a living being, man or woman, a living being. And this will be taught and explained to all Kiwis to empower and free the people from yet more lies. Unless there is a victim, there can be no crime. You shall no longer be used as a government cash cow or to bolster the coffers of other state agencies. Coming from a background in law, as I do, steeped in the traditional ways of the New Zealand legal system, it has been a huge bridge for me to cross, and I can now see how important it is to help others to understand the nuanced weaponization of our legal system against us. A higher law, fully entrenched constitution, shall be proposed to you, the people, seeking your valuable input. It will be a constitution that effectively limits the powers of government, and it will enshrine and protect our God-given natural rights, and it will hold them inviolate. We will also criminally investigate all who have acted against the people of this nation. Whether dealing with historical or recent crimes, these investigations will not be characterized by the usual vacuous lip service, the whitewashes, and the intentionally toothless terms of reference of recent token government inquiries. Instead, they shall be credible. Their scope shall be wide and deep. No area will be off limits or exempt from scrutiny. The jab injuries and deaths, the Lake Alice investigation, which needs to be reopened, the bribery, the corruption, the treason, and the crimes against humanity. These are all the main areas in need of thorough sunlight and justice. All whistleblowers will receive full protection for telling the rest of us about the wrongdoings you have witnessed. The whistleblowers will be the heroic ones, helping us to clean up our country from within. You can research the Opal files yourselves if you wish to get some idea of the depths of corruption within New Zealand over the years. And always trust that the truth shall set us all free. We often hear that the children are our future, a lovely political byline that means nothing now, because nothing good ever really comes from government to ensure that our children actually inherit a healthy, happy, safe and prosperous future. It's meaningless verbiage that we've heard from every politician. The future of our children is not for sale, leverage or negotiation. We shall also protect them from all means of exploitation. Please watch the Posey Parker Ross Campbell piece on Free NZ Media's Rumble channel. You will begin to understand the dark corruptions being pushed at our children in our schools, and also the viral sharing of the Sound of Freedom film is on the web, and it too is essential viewing if you want to understand what is really going on. We at New Zealand Loyal have the solutions. They are real, they're tangible. We just need you. We need you to engage. We need you to research. Most of all, we need you to be loyal Kiwis. We have no desire to appease, accommodate, or negotiate with the current criminal elements that infect the New Zealand Parliament like parasites. We are here to end their reign of tyranny. We hereby contract with you, the people, to guarantee we shall never work against your interests. Quite the opposite. We guarantee to serve you, to work for you, and, when you give us the majority after this upcoming election, to achieve everything we have stated we shall do, not to try to achieve it, to actually accomplish it, while at the same time consulting with and listening to the voices and views of you, the people. If you want a country where you're respected, left to pursue your happiness unimpeded, without causing harm to another or to their property, then you must vote for these visions and these undertakings. You must stand with us and choose loyalty to the people and not to the globalists. If we're to win this war, we must combat their war machine, in which their mainstream media is one of their most potent deployments. This is where you enter the digital battle space and combat the agenda-driven propaganda plague. Turn off the news. Don't watch the rubbish at 7 p.m. Stop buying the mainstream newspapers or listening to the bias and lies on Radio New Zealand. We're in a state of emergency, and we need to stand up and we need to fight. This is it. This election. It's our last chance to change the ruthless, greedy, gobbling, globalist momentum. The mainstream media is totally collapsed into globalism and censorship of the truth, but we, the people, can share the truth on social media, person to person. Please today ensure that you share this message to all you can, but share it if possible person to person and private group to private group. The government is gagging and issuing gagging orders for Loyal. Clearly, those orders have already gone out to Facebook. In a way, it's an inverse compliment to us. We're only 10 days into being a really viable political party in this country, only 10 days old, and yet they are scared of people coming together behind Loyal. Many supporters report to us that the first 2 messages we've already put out are, for example, stopping halfway through, or sometimes they'll share them on their pages and get a warning when there's no reason to put a warning out there. This is meant to be a free and fair election. Why is the government already playing dirty via its very collapsed Facebook? Why the interference? And did the government interfere with the setting up of our New Zealand Loyal sign-up page? We can't know at this stage, but certainly constant IT issues have been markedly on the rise for us. And here's another question. Why was the weekly Monday night podcast I do with Teacher Joe, Farmer James and Just Jono removed within an hour of it going out last week? All we were doing was being 4 slightly excitable, happy friends, sharing that excitement and our vision for the New Zealand we could all envisage building once this election is won by the people. It was a joyful podcast. It was positive and it was funny. Yet the whole episode totally evaporated with no warning. I say this to the government. Your censorship shall only make us more determined. And it also highlights to all of us the corruptions behind the silencing of our voices. For 3 years, Kiwis have hated being censored. There will be no more censorship when we win. There will also be no propaganda departments. You don't need PR spin doctors when you tell the truth. It's simple. You don't need to shape the message. You stand up and you talk honestly to the people from your heart. We'll fully investigate just how many propagandists the New Zealand taxpayer has been paying under this Labour Greens government. I think the numbers will horrify us all. There will also be open and uncensored and unfettered choice in the health area. The oppressive Therapeutic Goods Act will be relegated to the dustbin of bad ideas and unnecessary state busybodying. Why should we not be free to choose openly differing forms of medicines for our own bodies, not just big pharma drugs with their now very questionable research and money-driven motives? We will encourage a flowering of herbalists and osteopaths and homeopaths and acupuncturists and Ayurvedic doctors and many other modalities in New Zealand. We'll openly discuss and research the vast and lately very much hidden benefits of health modalities that lie far beyond the limited, profit-driven, big pharma suppressions of information. All of this and much more when you give New Zealand Loyal one chance and one term. And perhaps beyond that, when we do what no other has done in this country before, and that is free it. When you vote, please do not mail in your ballots. The voting machines used in America are what we have here also. You know what that could mean. There is a reason Jacinda wanted us all voting early last time, so that there would be fewer in-person votes on paper on the day. In-person votes are able to be clearly counted, but rather the early votes were taken in on corruptible machines. Don't fall for that again. Make sure you vote on the day and, in addition, take a picture of your ballot. And as well as that, please volunteer to be scrutineers and personally take down the tallies of your voting station. Be part of this election. Please, you must vote. Do not let another dictator be installed in this country. Countries around the world will be watching New Zealand. I've said it before. We, this plucky little country, and us in loyal New Zealand doing it basically until now on a piece of number 8 wire, we can be the David to their Goliath. I, like you, am deeply loyal to this country. I'm deeply loyal to you, the people. And I love and respect and value and treasure our Kiwi way of life. So let's send a message to those who believe we are a nation of apathetic sheep with no backbone. Get up with me and get ready for the greatest political upset ever witnessed in this country. By voting New Zealand loyal, you will be voting for your life, your freedom, and your future. And for, perhaps above all, the future of your family and your children. We are the ones to blame for losing control of our lives under this unpleasant and corrupted Labour Greens government in the last 3 years. So let's together make damn sure we never lose that control again. Over the next fortnight, we'll be providing details of exactly how we achieve what we have stated here in this overview of New Zealand loyal policy. We're also currently appointing the board and drawing up the party constitution. We're then going to begin shoulder tapping the right candidates to go before the board for selection. I cannot thank enough the thousands and thousands of you who have viewed the New Zealand Loyal website, who have offered donations to help us get started, who have signed up as valuable paid members and contributors. So many of you have written in offers of ways in which you would like to help, and that's beyond the donations you've given us as well. Please, if you are not yet signed up as a paid member, sign below and share this message to as many people as you possibly can, preferably, as I said earlier, person, to outsmart the ruthless government censorship machine. Together, our love for our country and ultimately our love for each other as Kiwis will win over all the evils and deviousness they have unleashed on us relentlessly for the last 3 years. And when we choose to vote loyal in vast numbers, this party, representing the power back to the people principle, will ensure that, I hope, I pray, that all current 120 politicians are ousted in October. I hope Labour is never again voted in New Zealand. From there, we, the people, can begin again. And with respect and listening and decency to one another and morality and courage, we can build the country we want to leave to our children's children. I'm Liz Gunn. I'm ready to reclaim our nation. Are you? Please be loyal.